Коллеги, мы начинаем нашу панельную дискуссию.
Dear colleagues, we'd like to start our panel discussion, and we will talk today about technologies as the factor for competition in the financial market. Is it a joint solution or is it a solution for themselves? We have an amazing panel today. Lots to be said about everyone, because everyone here is a star by himself or herself, and they do a lot, either in their own banks or in their own organization, but also they contribute to the greater community. So I think it's just timely to discuss where to find a balance when an organization is moving forward and knows where it can get its own benefit, and or whether it should cooperate and where you can find benefits in this collaboration. Mikhail Asiyevsky, chairman of the Rostelecom. Georgy Gorshkov, first deputy president and chairman of the management board, Pochta Bank. Ilya Polikov, chairman of the management board from Rosbank. Oleg Tinkov, well, guess what? He is from Tinkoff Bank. Vadim Kulik, deputy chairman of the management board, Bank GPB, and Vladimir Verkhoshinsky, member of the management board, deputy head of VTB Group Retail, VTB Bank. My first question goes to Mikhail. Look, all of us here are bankers, and just one non-banker. One guy coming from a technological company. It's so easy to make telecom guys offended. Can a telecom guy become a banker? Considering that you've got lots of developments, lots of advancement, and lots of technological projects that are so efficient. And as you know, Rostelecom has become now an operator of the single biometrical system, and maybe you're ambitious. Well, they're much more forward-thinking, and maybe you see yourself at the head of a big financial technological group. So first, what's the future for your companies that you see? And second question, why did you decide to become the co-participant of this very heavy, very big platform? I mean, CapEx-heavy biometrical system, identification system. Thank you. Olga, well, the God loves this number 3. I've been banker 3 times, and maybe I should become a banker more than just 3 times. Well, the God goes his own ways. I don't think we should do this discussion whether the infrastructure is good or bad for us. The first thing I did, the first place of work was a foreign exchange. It was a foreign exchange here in St. Petersburg 20 years ago or more, and even then the banks understood that there are certain areas and zones where one must unite and collaborate because it's needed for everyone. 25 years have passed, and the banking community, the financial community now realizes that there are some technologies, some markets where there are common interests available, and this is still quite valid. So Rostelecom, being a national technological operator, proposes various initiatives across various areas of our economy, and FinTech is one of the leading initiative, because FinTech is a community for the rich, and we invite people and we welcome people who are not just bathing in money, but also have a lot of brain in the head. And also these are the people that are far advanced in this technological agenda. And that's what we do as well, but we keep and we still retain a very clear-cut position. When you create an infrastructure, don't become the market player. So, unless we're being summoned by our government, I still would like to be at the head of a telecom and infrastructural company. What's important for me is the lack of, avoiding conflicts of interest in the project that we do. At our stand today, we are presenting 2 technologies now, not just in theory, but in actual practice. And the first here is biometric identification. I think is becoming a buzzword already, but together with Pochta Bank, we've shot a movie, and it hasn't been yet nominated for Academy Awards, but if next year Tinkov will join us in this movie, we'll definitely go to Cannes. And we're going to be the first audience. Which kind of category? Well, we'll pick and choose afterwards. Can we run the movie? Please. To register in the common biometrical system, what's enough for a citizen is to come to the nearest bank office. An employee will ask you to fill in the format, fill in the template, will take your passport and your insurance. Then they will record your voice and the biometrical data will be taken. All of that data will be connected to the single identification and authentication system. At that, the registration will end. Pochta Bank experience in biometrical data management helped it to become the first bank which is ready and friendly about identification, biometrical identification. You register in the bank, you choose the service, then you register at the state service website using your login and password, and you can send the data into the biometrical system. After switching on the camera and microphone, you read the text out of the screen. Also, the user will be asked to either blink or smile. Then the recordings you've did will be compared to your to the previous session. Then you will have to confirm the account opening by SMS. Then the account is open. This remote identification took less than 1 minute. The access to all digital services of Russian Sberbank has been obtained this way. I think VTB has to travel to Cannes. We are better in the shooting movies. Why I like this project, and it's not an easy one. And I'm sure that it's going to be successful because just a little bit of time remains for it to jump. And this is something that will help a lot of our businesses, a lot of our industries to advance, fast forward. But I believe that this is the project that also helped us to bring along lots of big partners, the government, the central bank, the Federal Security Service, the Russian banks, Rostelecom. And this intergovernmental, multiple stakeholder project has become a success, and I think it's very important. It's something that previously we could have only dreamt about. So it says that in large states or quasi-state institutions like Sberbank, we see the readiness to advance, to move fast forward, to search for compromise, to strike it and to find solutions. It's a broader PPP model, private-public partnership model. Again, without going deep into details, that is what reminds me of. And the second block I would like to talk about are definitely cybersecurity issues. The cybersecurity threats are becoming quite clear for everyone today. The banks are in the forefront of that. They are the juiciest bit for perpetrators, and that's where most of our new technologies are being applied currently. And that's what everybody's trying to do quite actively. So this is exactly the zone. This is exactly the area where the availability of infrastructure does ensure a significant support and assistance. And we see, like in how to our Center for Cybersecurity, new and new partners refer and come along, not only from the banking sector, but also from other companies and other industries. Again, these companies do not necessarily have to be big and federal. They might also be small and regional. And the niches that we play in today are demanding this service. The most important thing is to be modern, is to be top-notch, and not to be conflicting with anyone, and to be held responsible, to own the results, to be responsible for the outcomes. That's why I think uniting competitors in the market, uniting the players, the competitors in the market, is possible. And this is the right way of moving forward. And with every year, new forms of collaboration will appear. I'm so sad that you won't become a financial company because we won't be able to regulate you. But you've inspired me because you're ready to do other projects under the PPP template. And you might be even continuing doing something in this community you've built, apart from biometrical identification. What else can your company provide in the next 2 to 3 years to come? Any ideas about that? Definitely. Many banks today want to integrate their technologies and their products with the state resources. They see the value in this connection, and of course, getting access to the e-government service. will become a great skeleton on which you can put some meat on top later. It's a great connection. And I think what else is coming up? The big data. And I think when it comes to big data, we must provide a collaborative solution to it. We must establish institutions that will act for the benefit of all stakeholders. And we, Rostelecom, see ourselves as such a uniting force, and that's why we keep doing consultations with the central bank, one of the key regulators in this sphere. We keep consultations with the government and various other operators. That's why big data, integrating to state resources, are the niches exactly where Rostelecom can be relevant, and that's where we can offer new solutions and where we can be quite active. My question goes to Georgi. Georgi, Mihail has mentioned the pilot project that they did. And he said that they did it in collaboration with you because you became more flexible. You were more flexible. You reacted faster. Other banks are piloting this technology, and they will start applying it from July. But I know that at Pochta Bank you had your own biometrical platform. You had your own biometrical system before this one that we're talking about. Why do you think it is worth it? Why do you think it is worth it of joining a similar platform? Don't you think there is a conflict of interest? Because on one side, you have a solution that you've invested already and you can use it, but on the other side, you still have to do something to be able to connect to biometrical system. So what are the benefits of doing so? And should we continue to develop such solutions within the framework of a company, or should we have those solutions as common good, as common welfare? Thanks a lot for the question. Well, 2 of my slides are being uploaded. I think that it's too early for the central bank to become sad, because knowing your appetite, probably soon you'll be regulating Rostelecom. I think all the participants will agree with this. But then again, what does Pochta Bank get? And what other players in this market can get by connecting to the technology? I've decided to draft 2 slides. Simple on everything, or on just the important thing. Vladimir participates a lot in what, where, and when programs, the quiz shows. So here I'm asking a question: is the technology an advantage, a competitive advantage? Okay, tell me, which famous fintech company this picture symbolizes? Who knows? Which fintech company this company describes? Olga is keeping silent, but this is my prompt to you. Reuters. Innovative technological solutions can become a sustainable competitive edge. The founder of Reuters, of course, used pigeons to deliver financial news promptly, but then he would select bottles that Americans would drop at the shores of Ireland, and that's how he could become faster than other players for many, many hours. And the company remained for many decades the only reliable source of truth about financial markets and financial developments. Pigeons was a technological solution, you know. There are still jokes about post-pigeons, but this is a fintech example. Let me show you another example, which I think is quite applicable here. Smartphones. Once touch screens were produced, certain internet applications existed long before an iPhone, but only when a touch screen was tied in to a platform, to a software and hardware, we started believing that touch screens and smartphones are a convenient thing. And Apple, because it was because it made the first entry, they are now fixed in our heads as the provider of choice. What is Pochta Bank? We work where the postal offices are, and we stay in some settlements and hamlets where only 1,000 of people may reside, or even 100. We can't really check who came to us, a client or not a client, because we don't have all the technological solutions. So when we started using biometrical identification in 100% of all of our points of presence, it became a good technological leverage for us, asking ourselves a question, what's it in for us? Well, we've averted more than 10,000 different schemes and frauds with a total amount of about 500 million rubles. So I can conscientiously say that any bank that is going to use the system will see a direct commercial benefit, because you will now get the bigger outreach, and this technology is very similar not only in the physical points of presence, but also, and not only in the physical outlets, but it can work on your mobile phones. Now, technological platform. Accessible to everyone. What's more important, the platform itself or the new ways of using it? And I have two examples related to Pochta Bank. I think the technologies are available and accessible to all people and companies, but not everybody sees the opportunity to use them for increasing their competitive advantage. You used to have the internet, yes. Was there a foreign passport technology or process obtaining? Yes. Was there a process for getting appointment with a doctor? Yes, there was, but only when the government has integrated these services on one platform, on one portal, thousands and thousands of people started getting those services online and remotely, and it became really convenient. You can pay your fines, you can put your child in the kindergarten. These are the most demanded services we have. Again, a question. Do you know what kind of company this carriage symbolizes? A small prompt. It has two surnames on it, Wells and Fargo. No, it's a wrong question. It's not a Wells Fargo bank. It's an American Express carriage, because Wells and Fargo were also co-founders of American Express, but American Express started as a courier company. Could anyone afford carriages? Of course they could, horses and horse food, but American Express started using the service to transport money. After that, checks have appeared. Could people print before? Yes, they could. Could people use watermarks? Yes, they could. But only American Express have come up with an idea of stop moving cash and transporting checks, because they can be lost, but you will never lose your money. Then plastic arrived, then chips. And that's how American Express, being the first entry to this market, fixed their position and well, became the provider of choice for travelers. That's the first mover example. Now, Pochta Bank. What kind of example can I bring here? The single biometrical identification platform. We started working with this last year. It's accessible to all players, to all banks. United system for identification and authentication. Notary publics are now using it to notarize mortgage deals. We decided in our process, in our points of presence, in our outlets, to install such systems. And what it gives to us every day, up to 5,000 unique visits of new customers. It looks like this technology is available to everyone. Yes, it is available to everyone, but we decided to use this technology to increase our competitive advantage and to attract new customers. And then answering the question whether we could have common solutions or everyone plays by its own rules, I think there are both opportunities here. The banks shouldn't be doing fintech by themselves. Of course, there will be different opinions in this panel, but for the last 500 years, the way the banks operate, it hasn't changed. What banks do best is lending money, saving money, and payments. But breakthrough technologies, breakthrough stuff happens with technological companies. That's why technological companies are there to ensure that new opportunities arrive. Regulators, executive branch of power, they ensure equal access to various players. So not only big companies with large leverage can get access to modern technologies, but even small banks which want to get access to information, to data. That's what regulator is doing, and financial companies are using this technological jigsaw puzzle, right? You have platforms, elements, you have all the recipes, all the ingredients of the recipe to improve your competitive position. So what can the government make better? I've already voiced a couple of ideas, and I don't know whether my colleagues here in the panel will agree to me or not, but we actually need to ask about that the central bank. Guys, when will the banking community get the digital ID for a citizen? We are all waiting for it. We want it to come. When? will we get the ecosystem of digital state data? When the quality of data will become better? Let me answer the first question at least, just the first, because I'm already taking part in the third panel. All the questions that the government has not solved, for some reason they're being addressed to us, to the central bank. This is good because you trust in us. You not only trust in us, but you also know that we do something. We do stuff that become a reality. This trust does cost a lot. Of course, when you print money, what can be more important? This is our historical mission, but what are we to expect is something much more serious than that. Mikhail, I think printing money is much more important for the banking community than Rostelecom's regulation. Yes, we are ready to become in charge, and we actually start collaborating with some other state bodies because we're talking about the ecosystem of digital data, digital profile that are needed and demanded by the consumers. Thank you very much, Georgi. I will come back to you. I have a special question to you. You turned out to have one question for me, but I have a question to Ilya now. Polyakov, you are the new guy on the block, a new, fresh chairman of the bank. And when you come and you become the first person in the bank, the C category manager, so what's your priority areas? How are you going to grow? What's your strategic view? How does your vision coincide and correlate to Societe Generale vision? Because they have somewhat different strategies for different geographies, but nevertheless they're very similar. How does that differ from your business concept in Russia?
Thank you so much, Olga. Thanks for the welcoming reception. Thanks for inviting me on the panel. No, there are no bubbles over there, no. No, but hold it, guys. It's been 3 weeks. I think it's going to be out of place here if I were to disclose the full strategy of Rosbank on its Russian market, but I'd like to highlight the relevant points for this panel, the digitalization. We see our role as a bank that can bring the best experience from Societe Generale to the Russian market. Russia is much more advanced in terms of digitalization than many European countries, but the old world is not fully dormant. And in some aspects of the digital revolution, they use the leading technology. For instance, Societe Generale was the first bank in France and one of the first in Europe to launch remote bank account opening with biometric identification using the face features. This was launched several months ago and is now used in French retail network by Societe Generale, and I believe these are the technologies that we'll be able to use on the Russian market. So this is not the French national platform, right? For biometrics. This is a private Societe Generale platform, isn't it? Yes, you're right. This is not an ecosystem driven by the Bank of Russia. And you are indeed the forerunner as a Russian regulator, much more advanced than many European regulators. And I believe that the Bank of Russia has been playing a very positive role, giving us opportunities to create advanced solutions to cut our costs, but also to strengthen and develop competition on the Russian market. I think this is a very important element of what you're doing. The solutions that I meant were designed by and for the Societe Generale group. Another aspect in terms of advanced international experience that we are going to be bringing to the Russian market, Societe Generale also pioneered online banking in the respective country. I think Oleg knows Boursorama, a bank that was perhaps a predecessor to Tinkoff's formula. It was the first online bank in France, and it is now the biggest French online bank and one of the biggest in Europe. This is a subdivision of Société Générale that works on the French market in parallel to their mother company, Société Générale. And another point, the last point on the international experience, Société Générale is a leading player in operational leasing through ALD Automotive, and which makes available solutions to handle their company's car park, and this is a solution that is available in full online. This Russian market is not yet that big, but ALD has become a big player, an active player on this growing market in Russia. Going back to this country and our plans, our plan is to remain a strong and major bank present in all of Russia's regions, not with that much coverage as Pochta Bank is planning to have, but with a big network of branches. But we're also planning to invest significantly into digital, and also we will be promoting the so-called universal bank model for retail, for corporate banking, using the experience of Société Générale that I've described briefly. Oleg, we've heard from a colleague that claimed that Europe is not fully dormant. You just flew from the UK, which is or is not Europe. How do you see Europe in terms of online banking and digitalization? How do they perform? You've recently been to China as well, and I'd like to hear your opinion. Can you compare us to Europe and China? Because, especially China, because in China, a lot of things that we're planning to do have already been implemented. So, if you would compare us to the Chinese landscape right now, also you didn't know Boursorama, right? So you seem to believe that there was no online banking before you. If you didn't hear about them, it means that online banking started with Tinkoff. You're growing so fast. Your company is growing so fast, and do you think your company is going to mold its form in the forthcoming 3 years? And what are the challenges that you set for the company for these 3 years? So, but please also cover the dominant, non-dominant Europe and the China that is most certainly non-dominant. I couldn't Google it out, Boursorama. I saw the Viamo. Boursorama.fr or .com. Sorry, I didn't hear that. I live in Italy for the summer. I have I have a country house in France. I lived in the States for 10 years. My children study in the UK, so I know the international landscape. I'd say well, and Russia, in comparison to countries where there is competition, in the democratic countries, you know, Russia, I think, is #1 in the among the democratic countries. China is not a democratic one, you know. Situation is somewhat different there, because there's a monopoly, if not a hyper monopoly, because Alipay and Tencent and AliExpress have already won over the banking system, because the banks mainly work with industry and corporate clients. In terms of retail, the monsters of China have already split up the market, and this monopoly does not allow anyone else to enter. Chinese go everywhere, but they don't allow anyone to enter. There, of course, it's easy to have 1 billion customers on the market where no one can enter. So, therefore, for me, you know, the Chinese example is not something I look up to. They come and offer their solutions with GV or something like that. We have Visa, Alpha Bank, Sberbank, Tinkoff. We have so much competition. Why do we need you here when they came? So I think China's phenomenon is based on the mega monopoly in Europe. We see a monopoly of sorts, because Societe Generale, I think they're merging now, and the Italian banks, they're all just the proxies of the respective ministries of finances with very little private banking. I think Herman Gref said similar thing. When I lived in those countries, I realized that they really in the Stone Age. And the customers there, of course, don't get any service. And what you get, they don't get what you get at Tinkoff and in most Russian banks. We really are customer-centric. Europe is lagging far, far behind. There's no banking business in Europe, really. Forget about it. There are these quasi-state banks. Of course, maybe they are listed as private companies, and maybe 7 to 8% state-owned, but in fact they are fully state-controlled. And these are. Can I interject? But I think they're really throwaway banks. Nobody should be following them. Ilya, sorry, you work there as a chairman, and I'm sure that we hired some people from Societe Generale. I think everybody's aware of that fact. I don't think there's a lot you can critique. Did you sound a little bit like Zhirinovsky, do you? Sorry, it's up to your hearing, isn't it? But I think this is obvious. There's no competition. This is, in fact, state monopoly. Sorry, if I may. I know. You risk being fired. The stakeholders of Societe Generale, the state is not there. As a number of big foundations from the United States, from Europe, and the biggest stakeholder is the employees that have about 8% of their shares. So he just disagrees with the facts what you said. I'm sorry. And yesterday on the first panel we were discussing European banking, and Herman Gref yesterday also had the foresight that the European banks will survive in full. I disagreed, and let me give you one number, and I think it's of interest to you, Oleg. Societe Generale invested 4 billion in IT 2016. I don't know. Are we gonna compare our budgets? You know, of course they stole half of it, and I don't think that. I fully agree with you, Oleg. I could Google Boursorama though, but on their first page they had Trump on their first page, so therefore I'm sure that they are a proxy of the government. I really think that this Congress need not focus on European banking. You know, I only go visit them when I have to go to Cassa Risparmio Forte Lucca Minarme, where I have the bank assistant to make a transfer in Italy. She writes it with her hand, and she has to go with all writing out zero, another zero, another zero, and so on. So I think, okay, maybe one more example. When I spoke to the co-founder of Capital One, and he told me how they were pushed out of those markets. We met at Maribel. I think there was BNP. So the 4 presidents of the bigger French banks, they met and they decided to work together to push Capital One out from. They did. First one introduced a surcharge, and the second. So this is how they worked it out. I think the word monopoly is a French word, really. I think we stuck with Europe too much. Yes, Oleg. We covered. Did we cover China? No, but it's important because it sounds like they're private in China, but they are state-supported monopolies, aren't they? So this is another radical solution where the market is not accessible because the state chose to support just those two. Absolutely, that's a fact. That's a fact. I have no comment to that. This is what's happening in China. Therefore, okay, now for the future of Tinkoff. We were born digital on day one, 12 years ago, when we started with emails and when we shared our analytics. We used to be the Pochta Bank of the yore. We worked with the Russian host and so on. A lot of respect, a lot of kudos to Rudenko and Gorshkov, what you guys doing at Pochta Bank. We study your experience, and we have to give you the due respect. Sorry, I had to speak in London in English. Respect. How do you say respect in Russian? Yes. So respect. The only thing. Again, maybe there's more respect due to the Bank of Russia. I think when central bank fights the rates and when president claims that the burden of the population should be decreased, but Pochta Bank de facto is of course the state-owned de facto, and this is the fastest growing bank in terms of loans, and their rates are very high. 12.9. It's 12.9. It sounds like a nice offer, but we know what it makes in reality. But in terms of technology, you're doing very well. The other thing that I question is that you should be able to survive without additional funds and so on. I'm sure you were discussing this yesterday at this conference. We have to fight and survive. Because it's much more expensive for us to attract money because you have so much funding. So my concern is that you perhaps work towards increasing the burden of loans over the population. Yesterday we presented our new strategy. On the strategy, I think it's full of insights. I think there's a lot of competitive information that since we are a listed company, we have to. Vadim has already studied it, he says, and they were impressed apparently. I think we share the understanding of for the future with Sberbank that in the future we're going to have not just banking but lifestyle banking. That is that the customer would want to have access to all sorts of services. We're going to invest into ticketing. We're going to buy companies that work in booking, ticket sales for events and so on. So we want our mobile app. Now our app, if it's installed, it's already likely to be top 5 in terms of how much usage, how much time the customer spends, and we want it to be top 3 in terms of popularity. You also mentioned that we grow fast, and Olga was asking about our revenue in the first quarter. It grew 70% quarter to quarter. Everybody seems to make this imaginary bridge to technology. Well, obviously, we are one of the leaders in terms of technology progress, in terms of finances in this country, and maybe globally as well. Let's not be ashamed of that. But I don't think this is the biggest driver of our business. If you check Banki.ru for the people's ranking, and we are top 1 there. I think this is what explains why we make so much money and why we grow so fast. I think it's because customer service has been strongly underestimated in Russian banking. And if you check that presentation on our website, it may not be a good idea in terms of, because it's going to help you guys to compete against us, but since we love this country, so we share ideas, everyone is now investing in technology, even Gazprom Bank, but it's not the digital per se. There's other things you have to pull together. And then another fresh news from London. Ilya, when you gave praise to the central bank, I saw people from the Vedomosti newspaper make this sarcastic face as if he was, trying to compliment the regulator. In London, I was meeting, this Enrique Schlemov, a lot of analysts, everyone really there, and everybody says that the Russian regulator is one of the most advanced and one of the smartest players in Russia. And somebody even said that you have so much brain in your central bank. It's very impressive. Therefore, I believe we need not look outside for the ideas. We have a strong regulator. Of course, we have to suffer from specific deviations in terms of control, surveillance. There are many questions, of course, but in terms of new technology and macroeconomic regulation, what the governor is doing, I think she's doing a great job. Very, very impressive. Well, we agree with Oleg on that point. We'll have some agreement with that's an inspiration for us as the regulator. If I may, two brief questions. You started with mentioning that technology and how it has to be coupled with other approaches to make sure that the customer feels the most satisfied. And I fully understand why you're number one in popular ranking, because you do what I as a consumer need. You are there where I need it, it's cheap, it's convenient. Together with Tinkoff and our new biometric platform, we did a pilot of technology when you can travel to the customer and collect the biometric data because you don't have offices, and therefore, yes, this could be, of course, a prerogative of Societe Generale. Absolutely, I think you guys might cooperate because you have this thing in common. You think you're too different that you may turn out to not be. So going back to this idea, I think it's very important that the market players tell us what will work and what won't work. And once we started to listen to this point of view, and when we discuss that, and when we have a shared understanding, we end up with a product that is needed by the market and by its participant. Gazprombank has been mentioned, and Oleg, I think, has been acting as a co-moderator, bridged me to my next question to Vadim Kulik. Gazprombank has always been associated for us that this is a specialized bank, a special bank with a special strategy and a special client. So it's a big and nice bank, but there's a lot of asterisks about every definition. So as far as I understand, Gazprombank has, for the last couple of years, has also been trying to transform their business model and become a universal bank with comprehensive set of services. So what are the novelties that you're going to offer, Vadim?
Olga, thank you very much. You said the word special so many times that it made me think. What do you mean by that? But in the end of the day, I realized that you meant just good stuff. Truly, Gazprombank has lots of competitive advantages. Stemming from its current business model and stemming from its current customer base, key accounts. And we service CIB segment in the most professional way. We have all the capabilities for it. The core business is what we do best. But before I even arrived to the bank started thinking about diversifying, reaching out. Salary payment schemes were too numerous in this bank. I mean, well, salary accounts were too many in the bank, and it required to move us on. We could see cash flow transactions, credit cards. We used a lot to support Sberbank and Tinkoff. We could see the outflow of cash. Well, you couldn't but notice that. And that served as the major driver for us to make a decision that we must try to diversify, try to promote, and try to tap other areas and become more universal. To answer the question how to do it, will require some significant deliberations, because there is already Tinkoff, headed by a very charismatic leader and still a very convenient bank. We have a big but technological green bank. We have Pochta Bank, which is small but numerous. So how can we be different when issuing our 125th type of salary card or credit card? So how can we be different? This is a huge question. And it is during this year, in Q3, Q4, that we will be adopting our new technological roadmap. And it is in this roadmap that we will try to tackle those issues. But it is already clear now that key areas for us will be the following. Well, first, we want to have something smart. We want to offer a targeted solution. We want to make such an offer that nobody else makes. The current state of the market demonstrates that we have to live in the economy of knowledge. A lot of banks are doing stuff with their data. They know more about our customers. And also there's another word that is being used, the economy of trust. So what we need to do is we need to take the trust we have, move some of our elements closer towards this PPP structure. And there's another story about competence of creative. If everybody has access to capital, if everybody has access to data, how could we compete? And like Georgi has said, people can compete by creative work. Designing something on quite mundane elements, on quite mundane bricks to offer something completely new. And that's why we're so interested in having the single identification system around, and we're so happy that the state is finally offering this common data system so that we don't have to do it by ourselves. And as soon as we expand and as soon as we, well, take this path, then a lot of our ideas, if we consider that, if we factor that in our equation, we'll of course be able to do many more things, because we also want to move into this lifestyle environment. We want to come closer to the customer, to the family of the customer, well, still realizing that our customers are well off. That's our strongest thing, because all of our customers are mainly coming from oil and gas industries. They have quite a good average check, and they're quite well off, and that's why we want to cover their family ecosystem with our offers and solutions. So that's what we will be trying to achieve by doing more creative things. Maybe you should do a synergy with Tinkoff, because Tinkoff has got a lot of stuff that works, and you've got a very good customer base. So why don't you swap? And then you can find benefits in both of your systems. Should you reinvent the wheel? Vadim has a choice to make, either Pochta Bank 1.0 or 2.0. You know, Olga, the question is there, but I'm afraid that together means under. You see, with such a charisma here, with such a charismatic guy around, together means under. We're a public company, you know. You see our price is listed on Bloomberg. I think gas is becoming more expensive with every day, so, well, you know what we are, what our price tag is. You know, purchasing power depends on Mr. Novak a lot, the Minister of Energy, and whether the new OPEC deal will come alive or not. But again, casting jokes aside, I think we are ready to make the step which is needed. And if we do it, the consumer will win. I think they will win if we're not just there to merge and to acquire. I think we will win when something alternative, something different will come along. But all right, you won't be able to reveal any secrets. Secrets will not be out. Let me ask you a more generic question. Well, what are the 3 technological things or tools or advantages that you believe will be necessary for you to pursue in the framework of the strategy. May I answer, again, more general, but then I will decipher that. Data, advanced analytics. This is what we believe to be the key, the core of all of that. You haven't given me three things, you have given me just one. Data analytics, there were two. Yeah, I've noticed that. Cunning. What a cunning person you are. My question to Vladimir Verkhoshansky. Basically, you are now facing a very serious tasks. You have three heads of three animals, and now you need to put them all together to get one animal. Because you've merged three banks, and at the same time, you're also moving along this digitalization curve. But are you still able to offer something new to the market, and will you be able to compete with the major players here? No one will ever disclose their strategy. Of course, everybody is more generic than specific, but I'm sure that you've got those cherries on the cake. You've got those frills that you will be doing in the VTB. Can you share some of those interesting things? I cannot accept, I don't take data and analytics as an answer. I don't take that. All right. Let me start off by continuing what Oleg and Georgy has said. During the bank holidays in May, I was in California. I was having a rest with my family, and I toured the banks, and they still use paper checks and carriages. Wells Fargo. Sometimes they even accept them in ATM. I also go on holidays to Italy, and there's no bank office there, and in order to exchange money, you have to go somewhere closer to the capital. In the current digital world, where information is being exchanged so fast, the customers are becoming more picky. And in Russia, people are being so critical about themselves, not always satisfied. But actually, the banking Russian market, I don't know whether it is the most, but it is definitely one of the most advanced in the world. As an expert, we've met with Visa and recently, and they showed us a very interesting graph. The level of digitalization, they believe that Russia is the banking sector in Russia, as far as digitalization is concerned, is #1. As far as competition is concerned, they're #3 and 4. Look, there's Russia, there's Poland, there's Switzerland. And I say, is it true? They say, yes, it is true. This is our assessment. We look from within. And we seem that there's a lot of room for improvement. We look from the without, and it's like we're among the top. In Poland, you know, there are such banks as mBank, Millennium Bank, cool banks, wonderful, beautiful, but I can't really say that they're much more advanced than we are. And it makes me think and brings me back to answering your question, what VTB will do. There's no secrets for it in here. Like 3-5 years ago when we talked about digitalization, everybody was offering some customer journey, UX, UI, fashionable words, and then nobody was clear on how to put the jigsaw puzzle together, but all the panelists here know what has to be done. I think we're all thinking in the same lines. I think we're all in the same coordinate system even today. Competition will be between those who will be able to do it, who can do it. And of course, the role of managers, the leadership role is becoming very prominent in here. Because team building, these are the capabilities that one must have, but the platform as an infrastructural element also has to be there. Now, coming back to the question of our panel, are we all together or are we by our own, on our own? Definitely all together. And one of the success factors here in Russia, I think, is that we manage to build and to design systemic solutions for all the banks. And I would like to join in the choir of compliments for the central bank. I would like to also thank Rostelecom here. I don't know how does it happen. Maybe again it's technological, a human factor, not a technological factor. But the CB and all other banks coordinate their efforts. We are not forced to be a partner to the CB. We go to the CB, we give our knowledge, our know-how, and we get the requirements from them. Well, at a certain point in time it makes us weaker, but jointly we become stronger. And the platforms that are currently being introduced, the identification system, the SWIFT payment system, and what else remains to be done, will definitely change our banking industry significantly, cardinally. We're already used to having our smartphones around. We are really used to the fact that we must not go to offices, banking offices every day, and I know that in a couple of years we will have more changes that, as time passes, will seem to us more natural. But again, queuing, well, a bank has to build offices if they want to still be a big bank. This is just an off-topic opinion. I still believe a big bank has to have his offices. Georgi asked me a provocative question. I'll answer it a little bit later, but now to revenge. I decided to come up with questions for everyone. Well, there's going to be just one question, but everybody will answer. Let's do a creative fight here. Creative competition. I like this term. Colleagues, what has to be done in the next 3 years? Well, two major things. To develop, to move our financial market forward. Just your strategic vision and what are the practical implementations in the next 2 years? What are the most priority objectives for us? What shall we do jointly? I'll start with Oleg, and it will come back to myself, and I'll answer the same question like you. It's easier for me. You see, I'll cover the ground. I will repeat what Georgi said, because to my mind, this end-to-end digital ID, this is exactly the major problem today. We know that these IDs are out there in the world, and they do help a lot. A single, clear-cut, and unchangeable system of identification. So that's what we want. All your current initiatives, fast and swift payments, it's an amazing thing that the whole world already uses. Biometrical identification. These are platform building things, and that's where we have to be. That's where we must come together. We must join efforts. Everything else, we must be separate. So if you ask me what do we want from the regulator, from the state, is definitely the digital ID. I talked about that, I remember, 4 years ago for the first time in Kazan. Ms. Nabiulina was there and everybody else. I said, let's do digital ID, but you see still they haven't done a lot. As far as banking offices, I'm wrapping up. Well, Tinkoff will soon open the banking offices, but I will not be in this bank, definitely. The bank will be there, but I will not be in the bank if they come to open the new offices, the office network. We're not going to argue with you who's going to eat the tie. I'll add about the digital ID here. The data which is available at the state level, well, there's a lot of data available, and I'm sure that they have to be accumulated, and all the players in this market have to be given equal access to this data, the source of truth. But it will require lots of legal resolutions, a lot of legal work, data protection, and etc. But this pool of data would have definitely helped us to reduce the costs, expenditures for loans and everything else, and it could also give us an opportunity to drive up the profits data. Since we're running the creative competition, I've listened and I realized that all of our banks are very smart and very advanced. But look at the rating. The 100 largest world banks, we will not find any single Russian name there. And that's the global problem. But I believe that in every joke there is a piece of joke as well. And if we believe that our technological readiness is high, we have to set ourselves ambitious goals. We have to establish and create good market, like we have in Europe, because we don't even have the ruble zone right now. I'm pretty sure Oleg is ready to conquer Europe, but we see what happens in Africa, in our sphere, in this technological sector. They have colossal breakthroughs right now. Huge money is being channeled into Africa. 1 billion and a half people live there, but they jump from a low base. And that's why they can start from a clean sheet of paper. They can create services of top-notch level. We ran a couple of research. Kenya, when you look at the amount of investments they make into modern financial technology, is number 6 in the world. And we're much lower than that. So I believe we must set ourselves ambitious, very forward-thinking goals to our private banks, to our state banks. If we're smart, we must be rich. Mikhail, I think Sberbank is definitely in the top 100. I'm not sure you've looked at your rating careful enough and close enough. Also, we're also rich. We'll earn about $1.5 billion in profits, and it's definitely an entry ticket to top 50. And we've been to Kenya. We've seen the Italy. The Italy is like, you know, a boot, nothing else. Just a boot. You'll never live to see the day when your offices will be opened. I'll be brave. I'll add to what Mikhail has said. Societe Generale is the largest international bank in Africa, so we can share our experience. Maybe Oleg will be of interest. But actually answering Olga's question, not only no. Answering Olga's question, I would probably highlight 2 things. First, competition. We must ensure that the competition in Russia is not only sustained, but is growing. That's first. Second, we're all keep telling about digitalization, but it's important for us to ensure that banks win in technology, that they're competitive in technology. Because now we're losing this war. Young, talented IT guys today want to go to work in such companies as Yandex, Amazon. And banks are not the employer of first choice. So that's why the banks have to improve their attractiveness to win in the technological revolution. We need more talent. Well, at least Oleg can serve as an example, because for his technologists and his IT guys, he plays A, very well, and B, has created such conditions for them that people work not just in these agile environments. I would use a more appropriate word. They work in a creative environment, and they create a good product, irrespective of the mistakes they make. But in the end of the day, the product that comes along is the product that the customer needs. So, Ilya, you're exactly right. And this is one of the things that the banking sector has to pay more attention on. Many players, many stakeholders use this paradigm. Well, we have our IT guys, we have our process engineers. We don't know what they do. They do something bad. You can't really expect anything good to come out of them. But to manage conditions for these employees of yours, this is something that requires a new approach. And IT personnel is now playing a different role in the banking sector, and one must recognize it. I would talk about 2 things. Oleg is a disruptor, in the good sense of the word, of course, and he is so active. And he is probably the first of the Russian bank that started attracting people to this world of digital banking. But there are examples of other countries. We've met with the Postal Savings Bank of China. We're asking how many customers you have. They say 500 million. All right. We told them about Pochta Bank. We said that we have just a little bit fewer customers, and we say, what kind of problem you have? And they ask us a question. You see, we have our mobile application. How many customers use your mobile application in Russia? We say, well, about 20%. Now it's about 80%. Well, they say, we only have 100 million people using our mobile application. They say, so low, so little. We asked them why, and they said, because many Chinese live in villages and rural areas, and they don't use smartphones, or those smartphones are not very effective, and people are afraid of using smartphones. So the first thing we need to do is, of course, attracting people into financial business, into transactional business. I mean, covering the non-client category. Such a non-client category, well, we have the Pochta Bank Junior project. It allows children, from very early on, since they're even born, to do first financial transactions. The real use case, again, it starts from somewhat 7, 8, 10 years. Try to commission your kids with the task to pay for the apartment. They will do it. That's about non-client attraction. So that's what we've done right now, non-customer attraction, based on the customer, client, and non-client model. The other use case we do, you see how our forum is named Stability for Growth? So the second thing we do is digital safety. Because with digital technology becoming more widely used, our customers become a subject for cyber threats. We leave a lot of traces and messages and chats on our computers and phones and etc., etc., etc. So, in the banking sector, in the telecom sector, and in the big data sector, we must protect our customers from possible attacks. We must prevent them. We must train them. We must teach them. And of course, we must educate them.
Присоединяюсь к тому.
Well, I do share the priorities that my colleagues have described, but I also would like to add the reduction of paper-based documentation. You need, for example, if you need your banking history, or some of the contracts can only be made on paper. So this have to go, of course, when we introduce more digital technology here, digital signature and so on. This will facilitate access. This year we want to go paperless in our offices. We don't want just to close down the offices. We want to follow the customer. App Store, you know, of course, the glass palaces when Apple is selling their stores, they don't look like house appliances stores anymore, but they're still physically present. But they offer, of course, a lot of digital services, and this is something that we want to do to reduce the paper-based circulation. I think paperless starts with the digital profile that Oleg and Vadim started with, and making access to state data possible and secure. If we resolve that, then of course the paper-based will die. And to conclude, I'd like to thank my colleagues to join me on the panel. I think I enjoyed it as well. I enjoyed it a lot, both as a professional, and it was a thing of beauty. I was able to sense that we're doing the right thing. There are really solutions that the market needs, the biometric ID system that we're going to launch in July, and I heard the digital profile and the state big data usage that we're about to launch with other state agencies and non-state agencies, that this is #1 priority. There will be a lot of resistance, of course. There are many people who don't want us to have this digital ID and invest in that, but I think we will make it happen, because the market needs it, the customer needs it, the regulator needs it. Yes, you have to hurt them in a good way. Now we transport the good. I'm not gonna hurt in any way. No, I want to share the good. And the colleagues have also mentioned that EAS market has to be an example for us, because if we have this available, the fast-track payments, the common access platform, the digital profile, and so on, I think that the EAS colleagues will be learning from us and will be using our solutions. Because as of now, they don't have projects of that scale. Will Sberbank be joining the payment scheme? It's not clear. Of course it will. That would be awesome. Of course they will. And also, this is about inclusion. There's a simple customer reaction. If it's convenient, we use it. If it's not, then no matter how you push it, I'm not going to use it. Therefore, given this harmonized structure that we have been discussing, the harmonized vision that we share, I think this is also a path towards shared happiness, not just convenience. So working is great, and working towards happiness, achieving happiness is even better. So thanks once again. Thank you, colleagues.